Frontier has announced during LateCon that we're going to get 2 new updates this year, one in September and one in December. We're going to go over them in detail, and we're going to talk about what we know and also what we don't know yet. And I'm also going to give you my own thoughts, opinions, and hopes for these updates. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. Today we're going to talk about first the new player experience and then the ARX that's going to be introduced in the September update, and then the fleet carriers, which is going to come in the December update this year. But first, let's dive into the September update. One of the main features in this is a update or a continuous work on the new player experience. Back in the April update, Frontier did the first iteration of, or the first pass on improving the new player experience, where they introduced some better UIs for trading. They introduced the new player areas where new players could fly around safely without being fearing being killed by more experienced players. And they also did overhaul the whole character creation, making it more streamlined and making it look more modern than it did before. Overall, good changes, I think. And they continue this work, and this time they move on to the point after the character creation, mainly the tutorials. So far, the tutorials has been almost a standalone thing, like that you would go out of the normal game mode, you will be put in a ship that would then tell you, or then you will run through some scenarios that would then teach you the basics of the game. It seems like these are now being moved in as part of the actual beginning of the game. So when you start, it will help you out with some basic missions. And it seems like what they're going to do is they're going to teach the players the basics of like combat and travel and navigation. And they say that's going to end up with people docking at a new starport for the first time. So we can kind of guess that this is probably not going to be like a 3-4 hour long thing. It's probably going to be something you can complete within an hour, would be my guess, because if it's going to end up with people docking at a new station, I wouldn't expect this to be something that would take a lot of time. But again, it's going to be it seems like it's going to be a more integrated part of the game where you can actually access it from within your cockpit. You get into these, or start up these training sessions to kind of teach you about the game. And I hope when you create a new character that it will like be put right in front of people saying you should do this, to give people an understanding of how the game works. Definitely thumbs up from me, seeing that we're going to continue work on the new player experience. But what is of more interest to more experienced players is probably the introducing of ARX. ARX is a premium currency that you can use to buy cosmetics, basically all the stuff that you can already buy in the Frontier store. If you're playing on console, this probably won't be that big of a change. Since they already have, I think, called Frontier points over there that you buy for real money and use those in-game to buy cosmetics. They are going to overhaul the whole system, give it a new UI, so it's going to look a little bit more pretty, I guess. Frontier has said that there will not be any like ships or any pay-to-win content. They will be the same stuff that you can already buy now in the stores. You're going to be able to buy for ARX. So you'll be able to buy ship kits, paint jobs, thrusters, laser collars, all that kind of stuff. So it's not like that Elite is going to go pay to win. It's purely cosmetics that you can buy with these ARX. They're just moving it from a third side outside the game, like on their own store, into the actual games. You can actually use it in there, which I think is a good move. Now, what is the most interesting part about this is the fact that you're going to be able to earn this through gameplay. That was actually what got me really excited, because that means that suddenly you can, just as a normal player, you can begin to collect this premium currency just by playing the game, and you can use that to buy cosmetics without having to hand over real life cash. Now, of course, exactly how much we're going to be able to earn and how much time it will take is a little unknown at this point. Frontier has said that they don't want people to change their behavior in order to get your hands on ARX. So I don't think it's going to be you have to go to a specific place to collect something and do something and hand it in. They say they want to try and implement it into the natural gameplay. So, but just by playing the game, you will automatically just accumulate this ARX currency. So I don't think they're gonna be a mission reward, because if they did that, they're kind of leaving out like explorers and miners and PvPers and people who do trading and stuff like that, because they don't often do that many missions. So I don't think it's going to be part of that. I don't know if it's going to be like a time-based thing where depending on how much time you spend in game. Again, if that was the case, then would be afraid people would just log in and just sit there and let the whole account run and take up their ARX currency. I should say that there is there will be like a weekly limit, I believe, for how much currency you can collect each week. So it's not gonna be we're gonna see ARC rushes where people find a certain combination of things where you can just run out and make ARCs real quick, or maybe we will do. I mean, if there are certain things that will let you collect the ARCs quicker, then we might actually see ARC rushes, like just as we have with gold rushes in Elite today. But again, it all depends on how much time, how much play time it will take to reach that weekly limit. Now, being a weekly limit, it's probably going to be a fair number of hours. And I don't know if it will be in such a way that casual players that maybe only log in and play, let's say 4 or 5 hours every week, will be able to reach that limit. I don't think so, because you still want to encourage people to come back and play the game a lot. So I think active players that plays the games a lot will definitely be able to collect their ARCs every week. But I don't think if you are more of a casual player, you shouldn't expect to be able to reach the limit every week, I think. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see how much, how you actually earn these ARCs, how much you're going to be able to earn each week, and especially how big of a percentage a week's income is of a paint job. How many weeks do you have to collect in order to buy a paint job? Personally, I don't think you're going to be able to buy a paint job every week, but it's probably going to be like maybe you can do it over 2, 3, 4 weeks, something like that, depending on the paint job pack. And they actually did another, it was barely just mentioned in one sentence, and I think it's pretty awesome. You would often see if you go to the Frontier store today to buy stuff, that often a lot of stuff is bundled together. So if you want a specific paint job, it might be bundled together in groups with, let's say, 6 different paint jobs. But you might only be interested in one of them. What they're going to do now is they're going to go away from the pack way of thinking of it, and everything's going to be separated out. That means if you just want one specific paint job from a pack, you can now buy that one paint job from ARX instead of having to buy the whole pack, which I think is also really great, so people don't waste their money and time buying a large pack where they only really want like a fifth of what was in there or a sixth of what was in there. So overall, I think the introduction of ARX is a great move. Moving it into the game makes it a little bit more seamless, so you don't have to tab out of the game to buy something and then go back into the game in order to fit your ship. It's right there, so you can see it in game. So one last thing actually, and this is something that I think a lot of you guys who are out in the deep, out in the black exploring will really like, is the fact that you're going to be able to now change your livery, like the cosmetics on your ships, from the main menu. You don't have to go to a station. Of course, for you guys living in the bubble, it's not that big of a deal because you dock all the time. But for people out exploring who may not dock with months in between, they might want to change the appearance of the ship to get something different to look at from time to time, and they can now do that after the September update from the main menu. So let's move on to the big one, the December one, and this is where fleet carriers are going to be introduced. Now, there was a video that Frontier leaked themselves by accidentally publishing it too early. It was supposed to be announced in LaveCon and then be put out on YouTube afterwards, but they did show it out earlier, but it was only like a day later it was then published. Probably. So, but it's out now. You can go to the YouTube channel and see it. Now, I'm just going to play the video now, and then we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed when I watched this is the fact that the ship is jumping in much the same way that we see capital class ships jump when they jump into a conflict zone, where they basically, I think this lore basically is to rip a wormhole, and all the black clouds is materials from witch space that are leaking into real space. So they'll definitely be able to jump just like a capital ship, and I do believe Frontiers in the past have said that these fleet carriers are going to be able to jump outside the normal ticks once a week, every Thursday. That was one of the problems we had with stuff like a mega ship, which is essentially a station. They can only be moved once a week. But these are going to function differently, and it's going to be able, it seems at least, we haven't had confirms lately after it. I mean, things change over time. So I think, as far as I know, the plan is still for these ships to be able to jump I think whenever you want, I guess. I'm not sure how often you'll be able to jump. I don't think it's something you're going to expect them to be jumping, like rapid jumping like you do in a normal ship. It's probably going to be a slower process of actually jumping, especially because I'm pretty sure they will be consuming fuel that you will have to collect. Of course, fleet carriers will have to be purchased, crafted, built, I don't know, by a squadron. That will require some materials. We're going to come back and talk about that in a bit. But they will use some kind of fuel when jumping. Exactly what it is, if it's something you can just buy or if you can get it in other ways. I would personally love to see if you could get the fuel in many different ways. Maybe you can dump fuel off your own ships and go to a star fuel scoop, go in, then dump half your fuel tank, or maybe 90% of your fuel tank, and then go out and scoop some more. That could be one way of fueling it. It wouldn't be the most engaging gameplay. I hope the way they're going to do it is going to be some way we can get it in multiple ways. Maybe, for instance, let's say the like the raw materials that we have now. It could be something similar to that, where you could both collect it on planet surfaces. You would be able to buy it on the market if you just want to hand over straight cash. Maybe you'd be able to get it out of asteroids when you're mining. It could be found by shooting NPC haulers. I don't know, stuff like that. I hope what they will do is they will give, if there is a consumable item that we will need as fuel, that they will add it in as a new item, and then they will make sure we get a long list of ways to collect this, so that every type of community can get access to this fuel in a way that they want. And I hope that's the way they're going to do it. But again, we don't know how much fuel, how difficult it will be to get, how much playtime it takes to make a jump. We don't know anything about jump ranges. Personally, I hope they're going to be quite long, so you could make like huge jumps. I would think the fleet carriers would work the best if there was something you would move not that often, but when you did, you could move them really far. Not saying you should be able to move them to the other side of the galaxy, but at the very least, you should be able to move them from the bubble to, let's say, the Pleiades sector in one go. Something along those lines, I think, would be fair. So if you wanted to move them to, let's say, Colonia, well, then it would take several jumps to get there, and you would have to make sure you had enough fuel on board, or had people fly back and forth between the bubble with fuel to it to refuel it. So it would be kind of a group effort to move it over such a long distance. Another quite interesting thing is how accurately you will be able to move these. I mean, are you just going to go jump to a system and then you're just going to select a random body in that system and then it's going to be orbiting around that? Or are you going to be able to select a specific moon and say, I want to be orbiting that moon? Or could you even say, I want to jump into that hash rate site or into like this player's position right now in space? I don't know exactly how accurate it's going to be. I hope they're going to allow us to jump at least to a specific planet and not just into a system, because it might be that if you use these, let's say, as an exploration platform, you might want to explore a certain planet, or you want to put it somewhere. Let's say you want to put it far away from the star, and you have up here like let's say you want to put it out close to hot orbit. If you might be able to actually do that if you want to. Now let's go back and just quickly watch the last part of the video again. We get a quick sweeping shot here over the top of the ship, and I've been looking around, and it seems most people agree that the landing pad sizes on the top are 8 large landing pads, and around the side there seems to be 4 medium and 2 smalls. Now this was quite interesting, I think, that we have so many landing pads. I think what do we have in total, 14 landing pads on this. This at first puzzled me a little bit. I mean, first of all, it's great to have a lot of landing pads, especially great to have a lot of large landing pads. There's often an issue when you are playing together in a group around a mega ship. Some of them doesn't have that many large landing pads, and sometimes they are in high demand and you would have to queue up in order to get access to it. So seeing them have a lot of large landing pads, I think, is definitely a plus, and having them so closely packed together on the top would also make for some great screenshots, I think. Filling that up with ships would really look awesome, I think. So the next question that springs to mind, at least for me, is what are we going to use them for? What are fleet carriers for? I mean, sure, as we talked about, you can use them as a remote platform if you're out exploring in the deep, but other than that, if you're a faction that just stays back in the bubble, what do you need fleet carriers for? And again, it all comes down to the fact that how easy they're going to be to move. Could you, let's say that you for a night wanted to go and do some bounty hunting in a specific zone, could you just park your mega ship, or your fleet carrier, sorry, right outside that conflict zone that you want to fight in, and then use that as a platform so you wouldn't have to fly far to a station? If that is the case, then I could definitely see it being very useful for BGS factions. I mean, we have our own faction, Carriers ARX, which is a lot of BGS, and we are beginning to expand into more and more systems. And it's not always that we have a station nearby where we want to do the fighting. So having the ability to take a fleet carrier and then move that into a specific location close to a conflict zone and park it there for a few days giving people a platform to dock at, rearm, restock, repair ships, that kind of stuff, making those kind of activities easier. But it might just be that it's just going to be a movable station for players, which will definitely have a lot of use for some activities, but it will not be for everyone. Because, again, this is move us on to how are you actually going to acquire these. Now, we don't know yet. We don't know anything about what they're going to cost and how this thing's going to work. But I have a few guesses and hopes for how they're going to do it. Personally, I hope that the building a fleet carrier is going to be a group project. Sure, you can do it on your own if you really want to, and if you're dedicated, and if you don't mind spending a lot of time doing it on your own. But overall, I really hope that this is going to be a group project that takes effort from a whole community to build. And it is kind of a balancing act, right? Because you don't want this to be something that is completely out of reach for most players, where you think, okay, I have me and we're a couple of friends playing this together, we're never going to be able to get access to it. I don't think that would be beneficial, because then it would really only be for a select few communities that are big enough to have the number of players to build them. I don't hope that's going to be the case. So I hope they're both going to be easy enough that smaller communities can get their hands on them if they really put their mind to it, but also big enough that you're not going to see every single solo player just create a one-man squadron and then have his own fleet carriers. Again, it should be doable, but not something that will be common to see. I also hope that it's not just gonna be a hand over cash and go kind of thing. What I hope they will do is a little bit like the source and return wing missions, where you would publish a mission and then you would get, okay, as a wing you now need to collect so much, and you would dock at a station, you would hand that over. I hope it's going to be an advanced version of that, where some leaders in the squadron would go and say, we are going to start building a fleet carrier in this system around this station. Maybe you would have to go to special stations that would have like fleet carrier built yards or something like that, much like we see with the capital ships. Some stations has capital repair facilities around them, where capital ships are docked around stations. We could see something like that around the stations, and then a community could go there and say, we're going to build it here. And then there would be opened a squadron-wide mission that's going to have a long list of materials you will need. So you would need so many of that, so many of that, so many of that. And this could be a combination of both mineable material, it could be tradable material you could buy at stations, it could be like engineering components, like manufactured things, maybe even data, and maybe also just a pile of cash you need to hand over. It could be all those things that you would have to collect as a community and hand it over. I think that would be a fun project, and I would really like to see something along those lines. But again, we don't know yet exactly how much, how it's going to work. So this is just me guessing and, well, sharing my hope for how it's going to work. And again, if you have other ideas for any of what I've said, please go on and put it in the comment section. Another thing I've been wondering is there a limit to how many you can build? Let's say you are a really, really large community. Having one fleet carrier might not be enough. Well, the obvious answer is, well, just make more squadrons. Then you just make Alpha, Beta, Gamma, or 1, 2, 3 squadron of whatever faction it is, and every faction will have their own fleet carriers. But of course, it would be easier if you could just build multiple, and I don't see why you wouldn't be able to build multiple fleet carriers in a squadron, unless Frontier is afraid that the game is going to be flooded with fleet carriers, of course. And also, are these gonna be, I mean, I'm not sure if they're gonna be, hopefully gonna be cross-platform, but I'm not sure if they will be, but will they be cross-instance? So let's say that we build a fleet carrier and we put it in a system. I would assume that people then let's say I have some people who play in solo, or some people play in open, some play in private groups. They should all be able to access this. And what kind of access will they have? Will it only be squadron members who can actually build? Also, that can only access the megaship. Can everybody access it? This is basically going to be a station. Again, questions: can they be attacked? Are these going to be vulnerable to attack from competing factions? Maybe. If that is the case, I could definitely see some of the PvP communities having a field day running around trying to take down taking down people's fleet carriers. But I could definitely also see some people who may have worked really hard from it, and then suddenly a faction comes by and just destroys it. Would be a little mad, but again, it really depends. I don't think they're gonna be they're going to be destroyable by other players, simply because that there is a large number of players in Elite that play solo or only plays in private groups who don't want to deal with PvP, and they have the options to do that. So if you imagine that kind of player who, let's say you have a player community that plays in solo only or in private groups only, and they build a fleet carrier, and then suddenly someone in open combine shoots it down, destroys it, and they never actually been to open, but you can see my point, right? So I don't think they're going to be destroyable by other players, but maybe they could be, I don't know if they will even be attackable by other players, or accessible by players outside of the squadron. But again, hopefully we're going to get some answers to some of those questions later on. I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on the news here in the coming month. I don't expect we're going to get a lot information in the coming month. They're probably going to be focusing around the September update, but once we get past the September update, I think more and more information about the fleet carriers is going to come out. And hopefully maybe Frontier is going to do a beta on it. It's not a larger update, so maybe not, but we'll see. Anyway, this has already been a very long video, and I've been talking for a while. If there's anything that I've been wondering about that I have missed somewhere, if I've missed some piece of information, please let me know, and also feel free to share your own ideas, dreams, hopes, and every comment you have just down in the comment section down below. Now, if you want to keep yourself updated as the news comes out, I'll be sure to give you more detailed analysis of this kind of stuff as we get more information. So go down, hit the like button and the subscribe button if you want that information. If you want it early, you can also hit the bell icon. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, I'll see you guys in space.